Hello, friends, and welcome. Happy New Year. It is 2023, if you didn't know, or at least it is when I'm recording this. And anyone who's been with me for a while, the first week of the new year, I teach foot-based class. It is our foundation. It is what we stand on, what we walk with, depending on bodies, depending on your circumstances, of course. But they are the foundation for most human bodies anyway. And so we start with the feet at the beginning of the year. This is inspired by Bruce Schwartz, who was a teacher that I used to take at Yoga House in Pasadena and absolutely loved. So thank you for this tradition, Bruce. I appreciate it. And if you haven't ever done a foot-based class with me, welcome, have fun, be willing to go slow and just really pay attention to the feet. And you'll take that with you through the rest of the year and it will be so beneficial. You need to have a ball. If you don't, this is going to be a very unenjoyable class for you. So I have yoga therapy tune-up ball, but you could have like something like this that has a little bit of give. You don't want it to be too soft or too hard. And then I don't have them with me, but in studio we use tennis balls. So tennis balls are a really great one. And you can always just pause, go grab a tennis ball and come back and do the video after you have your ball. So also have 2 blocks on standby or something like that, a hard surface that we can use. And again, at any point in time, especially for at home friends, you can pause when we get to that place and be like, oh, that's what we're going to use it for, and then run and go get a hard book or whatever it is and join us again, right? And hit play. So, but if you've got them, 2 blocks, 1 ball. And then let's start by actually not using any props at all and standing on our feet in Tadasana. Right, so I like to do this thing called blueprint pose often. And what I mean by that is as you're sitting here and you're standing in Tadasana, don't be too thoughtful about it yet. Just kind of notice your tendency and how you stand, right? And if you weren't doing yoga, well, if you weren't doing yoga, I would probably be standing something like this. This is one of my go-tos. I've got all kinds of asymmetries because of it and probably other things in my life, right? But when I'm not completely in front of a teacher and paying good attention to my body, right? I just noticed that I sit with my weight in my ball mounds of my feet. I'm pretty far forward and that has my thighs thrusting a little bit forward. I tend to walk on the outer edge of my feet. I also notice this, if you ever look at the bottom of your feet, you can tell where your tendency is of where you put the weight or move through the foot the most. I'm outer edge and I'm often forward in the ball mounds of my feet when I'm standing, right? And so now I just want you to go ahead and I want you to look down. Bend your knees just a little bit, right? And with your knees just a little bent, make sure your knees are going straight forward, like, parallel, like train tracks, I call it. And then lift one foot up and spread the toes out and set it down. And lift the other foot up, not the whole, the heel stays down, sorry. Spread the toes out and set it down. And if your toes are a little in or out, that's okay, as long as your knees are pointing straight forward. But hopefully your petals of your toes are spread nice and wide. And now notice where the weight is again. Go ahead and rock a little bit too far to the left, and then rock a little bit too far to the right. And then kind of slow that down a little bit or make it a little smaller and come to the center. And hopefully you're distributed pretty evenly from right to left. And then go a little too far forward and a little too far back. I call this the MC Escher part of the class, right? And then go ahead and come right back into the middle. And hopefully you are squarely planted from front to back, from side to side, right? And what I call the tripod of the foot. And when I talk about the tripod, we're talking about the ball mound of the big toe, the ball mound of the pinky toe, and the very center of your calcaneus bone, your heel bone. And just notice what it feels now that we've kind of played a little bit. We've already started to play with the feet. Okie dokie. So there's one more pose I want you to do as a blueprint pose, and we'll come back to this after we've done our next piece of work. So downward dog. And this first thing, if you're not quite ready for it, you could do a half downward dog, or you could just simply, actually, rather than doing a half downward dog, I would just simply put the weight in the feet and reach the arms forward if your shoulders aren't ready for weight, right? But if you can, start to walk your hands forward, feet back, whatever you need to do to get in your mat, right? And then just for giggles, inhale, come forward into a plank. That's just going to give us the alignment, the length of the pose, right? and your shoulders are over your wrists. Hopefully scoot your toes back if you need to, and now move back, but don't move your feet forward or your hands back. So keep that distance. Bend your knees quite a bit, and then push your hands forward and down and reach those hips up and back. And again, this is really fresh. We've done next to no stretching at all. So it's okay if you have to keep the knees bent or you can't really reach the heels down much, etc. But try to lengthen the spine as much as you can and then start to reach your heels down. They don't have to touch the ground. You can keep the knees bent, but reach the heels down, the very center of that calcaneus bone, right? And then if you can lift your toe petals up, spread them out wide and set them down again. Take a breath and just notice what your downward dog feels like. Okay, now walk your feet forward or your hands back. Hands back is gentle around the body. You can go ahead and just roll up today. So hopefully you have a little bit of an idea of where your body is starting from. Now, bring that ball in under your right foot. I'm going to have it on about the ball mounds of my feet, right? You can even have it just a little bit inside in that first arch. It's called the transverse arch. You have 3 of them in your feet. We'll talk about it a little as we go. I'm going to keep my heel rooted and I'm not going to roll or do anything for a second, right? I have one foot a little further back. I can stay further back for less weight. I can stay further forward for more weight. I get to gauge the pressure that's right for my foot. The first thing to do is just let the foot melt around the ball. Right? It may not seem like much, but considering we have our feet in what Tom Myers, one amazing body worker, calls sensory deprivation chambers, AKA shoes, right? We lose a lot of the ability of the foot to be uneven and walk on uneven grounds and work the facets of the joints and the muscles, ligaments, and tendons in certain ways. So right now we're literally just letting that foot melt around the ball. And then once it feels like the foot has accepted the ball, I'm going to call it, go ahead and maybe strip the muscles of the foot. Strip the muscles, what does that mean? I'm going to go ahead in a lateral motion from right to left, keeping my heel down. My knee gets to go with that if it wants to, my thigh bone, my hip, everything can move with it. That doesn't have to be stationary, but you're just moving across the muscles underneath the ball mounds of the feet. And then go up a little bit. So now I'm more towards the middle. I'm just showing on my hand, correlating to my feet, right? And again, before you move too much, just pause and let that ball move up into the foot and the foot form around the ball as if it could dome all the way down to the floor around the ball. And then begin the stripping action. Lateral movement from right to left. If there's a really tender area, back off. If you're like, I could use a little bit more, some areas you just don't feel as much as others in the foot, right? But you could come a little forward and bear down a little bit more. You get to kind of choose. Beginners tend to do more with this work, a little too much, we'll say, right? Move a little further forward. Try to keep the heel down still. Try to let the pressure move into the foot. I'm not quite to the bottom of my calcaneus bone. And strip. Strip. And then now I'm going to move down right in front of my heel bone. And for this one, I'm going to put the ball mounds of my feet down and put the weight in the ball mounds of my feet, or have that be my stable part with the heel lifted. And once I feel pretty good and like my body's accepting that, I'm going to let my heel wish wash back and forth. And now we've gone against the grain of the muscle, so to speak. I think of muscles a little bit like a wood grain, right? So now we're going to go with the grains. Now you can roll from the heel to the big toe, back to the heel, to the second toe, back to the heel, to the third toe, back to the heel. There are muscles, ligaments, tendons, right, which each of those lines, and to the pinky toe and back. And then go ahead and just come off of the ball. Spread your toe petals, just kind of settle down. And then just notice if your right foot feels different than your left foot. How so, And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the other foot. So again, I'm going to start with it kind of just right behind the ball mounds of my feet. And then when I feel like my body's accepting it and my foot is kind of domed and rounded around it, I'm going to go ahead and move back and forth, right to left. Further back, less pressure. Further forward, more pressure. And if you're like, oh, more pressure, I need more pressure. Do you really need more pressure? Or does your foot start to go like, ooh, 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 right? The nervous system reacts to this stuff. It's not just about the muscles, it's about your nervous system. Hopefully you're starting to understand that more and more, the more you do yoga with someone who talks about or knows the nervous system, right? Whether that be me or someone else. A little further back, let the ball accept, the body accept the ball, the pressure, and then move back and forth. These nerve endings in the foot, over 7,200 nerve endings in our feet, right? They run up into different parts of our body and they're very connected to our enteric system and our brain and our nervous system. So be kind. And a little further. So we've got 4 stops. We're doing this one's not quite to the heel. Right? And move back and forth. And then with the foot forward, I mean, if you can keep your heel down, awesome. I can't. So I move my ball mounds forward. And then once I settle in, I switch my heel back and forth and let that motion come from the heel side. And then we're going to go ahead and go with the grain. So again, do these lines if you don't mind. You don't have to. You can roll all over tarnation. Of course you can. And, do it without me, like move to the ball mound of the big toe and just play with the bottom of your foot someday. I have a time limit. Go ahead and move to the second foot. So I'm trying to get in what I can systematically. To the third foot, toe, to the fourth toe, and to the fifth toe. You have an arch out there too, your lateral arch. So get that lateral arch. And then come off the ball, stand up nice and tall, and pause. So I don't think I said at the beginning, but this one is going to be mainly massage based. It's not going to be as much movement. And then I'm going to try and make another one, which is more movement based. So this one is, it's for mobility, stability, and awareness. So next you're going to go ahead and you're going to get a block. You could sit up on a block if that's better for your body. But we're going to need a little bit of, actually, I'm going to turn this way a little bit of a hard surface of this block, and to put the weight into it, being down is a helpful tool. Actually, I think it is this way. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to bring that leg up. Now we're going to work into this side, right, of the leg. So we're going to work with 3 different areas of the leg, and then we'll check our blueprint poses again. Now, I feel unstable on the ball, so I like to use my hand to guide my leg, and I'm just going to roll. I'm starting down near my ankle, right? And I just kind of roll up and down, around, side to side. And I'm going to roll out this muscle from down here by my ankle all the way up towards my knee, in starting low, moving middle, high. I did time off to go home and be with my mother, and then I had a 5-day silent meditation retreat. So I'm just getting back to talking in general and teaching. Whew. Right. And so again, if I need to sit my butt up higher, it's okay. But if it's okay to be here for this piece, it gives you pretty good leverage on the muscles out there. Okay, and then I'm going to let go of the foot side of it, and I'm going to do that line again, starting down towards my ankle. And this time I'm going to, you have inversion and eversion of the foot, right? So I'm going to pull my pinky toe edge back to my outer knee and release it, and pull it back and release it, and just play with that, because that's what these muscles out there do, right? And so I can play with muscles, fascia, all that stuff, by the movement of the foot as well, moving through the muscles, right? So you might pull it back and hold it back, and that might be floating your boat. You might pull it back, release it, pull it back and release it as you play. And again, you're moving through that line one more time. Whew, and if you find a spot, pause and take a breath into it. You can tell I just found one. Okay. Other side. Other leg is what I mean by that. So this leg, it doesn't really matter what it's doing, put it in a comfortable spot. And then again, I'm going to start by holding onto my leg and kind of controlling my leg with my arms as I kind of roll through. By the way, if that feels like too much pressure for you, it might just simply be rolling, with your hand. And that's the lightest amount of pressure that you can do. And that's another great way to start to work with the area. I know my mom with immunotherapy, she's so sensitive in her muscles right now. I tried to massage her and it was like I could barely use pressure on a lot of her body. So if you've got something going on, then just roll the ball without putting the weight into it. It's okay, right? By the way, we're moving our lymphatic fluid too. It's fantastic. And then you're going to do that line one more time. This time I'm going to release my foot, right? And I'm going to play with that movement of the foot. So pulling the pinky toe edge back to the outer knee, and I can hold it there while I roll it out. I personally like to move it in and out and then roll through the area, right? And just kind of play with the muscle and the fascia in that way. There is no right or wrong with this stuff, friends. There's what feels right for you at this moment in time, which might be very different than it feels tomorrow or after you've done a ski or run 3 miles. Okay. And release that and let that go. And just notice sensation, right? On our butts for one more, we're going to do the soleus and the gastrocnemius, right? So this time the ball is out in front of me on that. I'm going to put one foot on the ground, right? I'm going to bring my arms back behind me and I'm going to roll through the back of that leg again. I'm starting down towards the ankle. Don't go into the pit of the knee, go just below the knee, rolling out the gastrocnemius is that big bulging muscle on the back of your calf. I start low and then I move. So these muscles are in charge of they do many things, right? But one of the main things they do is they plantar flex the foot, right? And so again, you can play with those lines by just letting the foot be pretty footloose and fancy free as you roll up, and then maybe do that again, that line, right? But this time maybe play with pointing the toe and keeping it pointed and rolling through, or pointing and flexing as you roll. And just notice those muscles engaging every time you point the foot, right? Ballerina toes kind of thing. You are using those muscles at the back of the leg. And this stuff is really important for not just standing, but kneeling, for walking, for running, for all of our activities that we do. It may seem kind of like, what? But if your foot health, your ankle health is not great, it runs up into the platforms above it. It affects your knees, it affects your hips, it can go into the spine, right? Like it can have a very wide effect in the body. So this work can be pretty brilliant. I'm just switching sides so you can see me a little better. I'm going to start down by my ankle on my other foot, and I can, use my leverage into my foot and that's on the ground and my arms if I want to get a little bit of lift on my buttocks to move around. And so the first time, personally, again, there's no right or wrong. Personally, I like to just let my foot do its thing and not think about it and let it be soft and loose and roll through and find out what I find out, right? Get that information. Oh, golly, I've got some spots today. I think from I kneel when I meditate most of the time, and hooey, does that do some stuff with your lines. And then again, you might start at the ankle again and either keep it pointed and play with rolling over the shortened, contracted muscle, or, right, go ahead and point and flex, or whatever floats your boat. Rolling forward, back, side to side in circles. I cannot tell you what is best for you. You can close your eyes and feel it and do that. Okay, we got one more piece. You ready? Did you know that massaging your own body, touch, right? It's brilliant when you can do it with, your own hands, when someone else does it, obviously, but the touch of the hand to the body. But massaging your body can release oxytocin. Oh, it's the bonding chemical. That's so good. So you're going to come on up. And now this time I'm on my knee, right? And I'm trying to get the muscle that runs right alongside my my shin bone, right? So I'm not on the bone itself. That would just be uncomfortable. and difficult, right? But I'm going to bring my hands and my other knee down, and I'm going to start to try to roll through that front muscle. Again, if this is too much pressure on this muscle and you've never worked with that, no worries. Just sit down and use the ball in your hands and roll through it. And of course, I'm starting down by my ankle. That hasn't changed. And I'm going to slowly roll through that muscle up towards my knee. And I do that once. And then the next time that I do that, I'm going to play with this. The muscles here, they dorsiflex the foot, right? Which means they pull the toes up towards the knee. So now I'm going to play a little bit with either just holding that as I roll through again, or holding and releasing as I massage through those muscles. So again, I can play with the muscles in that way as well. Okay. We got one more side to go. I'll flip my body in case you need to see the side towards the camera. And again, there is no right or wrong, friends. There's just what feels like it's working for you today. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll through it. And you see me kind of like losing the ball, and I have to redo the block, and it's a little sloppy. I don't know if there's a super graceful way for this to happen, or maybe other people are. I'm not so graceful with it. And I don't care, because it doesn't have to look graceful. It just has to feel good. Right? Or feel beneficial. I don't know if it feels good. Some of the spots I'm hitting are like, holy crap. And then I'm going to go through that line one more time. But again, this time I'm going to play with dorsiflexion. I'm going to pull my toes towards my knee. And I like to pull in and then release it as I'm rolling through. If you prefer to just keep it pulled in the whole time and then roll through the muscles while they're contracted, that works too. You get to play. If you find a spot, sit with it, breathe with it. I could do this for, I'm trying to make a 20-minute video. I'm already probably past 20 minutes, but man, I could do this stuff for a very long time. Set the blocks to the side. Come on up. I haven't even gotten to half of what I want to get to. Pick your pedals up. Bend your knees a little bit, knees straight forward, right? And then kind of place your feet down. Spread your toe pedals. Set your toe pedals down. Notice where you are weight-wise in your feet. Make little micro adjustments if you find you're all the way to the right or right? Try to be in the middle of your tripods. Ball mound of big toes, ball mound of pinky toes, center of calcaneus, aka heel. Does it feel different? We're going to come to the back of the mat today. Either just walk your hands forward and keep the weight out of the arms, or walk your hands forward. Come forward into the top of a push-up just to find your length, right? And then move up, but keep the knees bent for a second. With those knees bent, it really allows us to find the pelvis and the length of the spine. So lengthen that spine out as much as you can, soft neck, and then start to maybe straighten the legs a little bit. But more than that, just start to reach the heels down, 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 down towards the earth. So when I do this with private clients, and especially when we do it on a regular basis, I was so surprised in the beginning because you hear it and you're like, yeah. It makes all these changes. And then people would be like, my low back pain is going away. People would talk about something in their right shoulder or through the feet. That's amazing to me. Walk your hands back to your feet. Bend the knees, roll up. So good to do on a regular. I wish I did this more. I teach it and I talk about it, but yeah, I don't work with my feet nearly as much as I could. I'm not going to say should. I don't like that word, but I don't do it as much as I could do. And it's something that I intend to do more this year. May you find peace from your feet all the way up to the crown of your head. Namaste.